Alright, so when looking at this planet, alright, I don't need this. Okay. And this, you can sort of see that they're in opposite zones, which is going to make it tedious to build on, but that's okay. We'll have to do what we can to make it work. So the first thing we're going to need to do is build a command center. The itty bitty little thing right there. All right. Can't do anything else right now until that command center is built, but I know that since I'm going to be working generally in this area, generally in this area, it is going to say it means this is a good spot. Now, generally, as a concept, right? Each planet has if two planets have like the same suspended plasma and they're different types, it might be one of those things where one planet might have like it for example be in this like equator area, but on a different planet type it might be a polar thing just because of the way the planets are set up. But so let's see, you click submit. Come on, there we go. And now you got your command center. I'm just going to upgrade it all to level 5, so that way I have all max CPU and power grid available. That is useful for everything else that we're going to get into. Cost me a static 6.3 mil. Bought it. There you go. So the planet's upgraded, or this infrastructure is upgraded. Now, this is where... Yep, go for it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. You can upgrade them as many times as you need to. Um, the there's actually no incentive to not upgrade these. It doesn't have like any sort of negative impact or cost. So the only difference is that like I pay like 6 mil to just all the way upgrade this. You might pay only like 5 mils. So it's like if you're going to like upgrade it, I just always upgrade it to full, because like 1 million ISK doesn't mean anything in the grand scope of things. So I always you can always keep upgrading it later as necessary. Um, mhm. Good question. Hmm. I know you cannot so you can have only one command center per planet. It, that is the that's the answer. Yep, no more than one per planet. Hmm. All right. Hmm. Yep. Yes. So some people will essentially take a planet and max it. Hey, this planet is going to be my water. In our case, we'll say like, hey, this one planet, this is going to make all of my plasmoids, and then maybe another planet is going to make all of my electrolytes, and then another planet will like maybe combine the two together. That is a very valid option and how to do things. I try to min max it a little bit more to like not like to be more hands off. So what I always like to do is I always try to get like at least P2 on a planet, and then that way you have like a little production line and it works the best that or it does its thing. But there's a lot of use cases where you just can't build it on the same planet. So you might have one planet that's dedicated to explicitly one resource. Hmm. Yep. Okay. So now that we're maxed out, it's time that we're going to build two things. We're going to build two extractor control units. All right. The first one, you can see there's a range. Imagine the range. This is like the hub where your mining vehicles work at, and then we're going to put extractors down that essentially are, the work sites, right? So for me, so putting an extractor like command center or a node on here doesn't do anything. It does the exact same stuff as if I slid it down to here, down a little bit, because I can still put an extractor on that node. Does that make sense to you? Okay, cool. There's no difference in like the cost. So for example, if I want to put one here and I want to put one here, um, they're like when I want to put a digger on this spot, there's no like additional cost like on the distance. The distance in this in this radius is all the same, so it doesn't have you don't save any CPU or power grid by building things closer. So I'm just gonna pretend these I didn't put them here. I'm just gonna quickly make them disappear. I will now. So the other thing is that if I want to, I'll just do this real quick. If I want to build an, I can't do this yet. So when you build an extractor, which is what we'll get to in the next phase, they have a radius that will expand off of them. Let me decom this. Let me just put this in the correct position, and I'll give you a sample. I'll put it about here. That looks, I'll put it there. Okay. I'm just going to press build so that way it shows it up. So we're going to have this one build aqueous or suspended plasma, and we can make these little extractors. Okay. The more micromanagey you want to get, so for example, if I want this to only run for an hour, your average pay per hour is, well, we'll just take it down. So here, if you want it to run per hour, right, your average per hour is only 9.5 thousand units. Not a lot, all right? And then here, if I want to run it for 14 days, your average per hour is going to be way less. But you also will consume, I don't want to say consume more, but it requires less micromanaging. So what I see is, since there's a not logarithmic, God, it's whatever the fucking curve is. But because of this curve, usually if I'm doing PI, I'll end up like, you can start and stop extractions. So like usually around here or here in this range, I'll usually just stop and restart them. And that way, it resets and then it starts at the top and it gives you like all these big yields, and then it like slowly tapers itself off. So for this large duration, it is essentially one tick is every 4 hours. And so I like doing it this way because that means that PI works in a 4-hour increment. And then everything in my brain, I can just sort of like run around in terms of 4. And that is going to be useful for later. So I like having it, you can find whatever works for you. I almost will always do the max duration. And then I will make a couple of these nodes just like this. And you can see that there is a efficiency rate. So that is because there's overlap. The more overlap there is, the less efficient the node is because of, intersecting. So I would put 1 on here, and I maybe put like 2 up here. Like maybe I put 1 here, and then maybe I put another one like here. And this gets to that, what I was saying earlier. There's this little radius. You can only put your node up to the end, but you can still pull stuff from outside. So this allows you to move this around, give you a little bit more wiggle room when placing an extractor. And so what I'll do is I'll sort of do something like this, and then just to find like a sweet spot, I'll start looking at these numbers here. So this number is only 200, which is this node. Let's see if I can get it higher. So this is 300. Let's see if I can move it. And I'll just play this little wiggle game, 308, 311. That's a good one, 311. And so I like that spot. So 311 will 313, 314. Perfect. Okay. And I can't get any better than that. That's a pretty sweet setup for me right there. Now, the reason why I say 4-hour increments are because of us doing in 4-hour increments. The 4 times God dang it. Okay, I'll explain that in a bit. We'll get there. I don't want to start it yet or go crazy with it. So we have this one here. This is going to make our first part. That's our suspended plasma. Before I start building out the rest of the infrastructure, I will click and build a new extractor node. I will click scan, and I will go find the other item that we need, which is ionic solutions. Okay. Go back to build, make sure I have the control center selected. And what I'm going to do is try to find which best suits us here. So like this would probably be like the best spot because it's 3 big, whiter, pinker areas. I might be able to get off a little bit more like that. And I'll place another extractor there. And so now for this extractor, I'll just click submit. All right. So now that I have this extractor set up, I would do the exact same thing. We're doing ionic solutions, 4-hour pull. We'll start with 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll line these up as best as possible. So we'll do one way out like that, maybe one over here, maybe another one right next to this one, and let's see. And then now we just do this wiggle game again, right? So this one is doing, all right, that's a good spot. Let's see what this other one is. Which one is this one? Okay, that's only doing 267. Let's see, does it do more over there? It's 269.4. Maybe like next to this one, 262. Here. Maybe what about over in this way? 243. Out here, 238. All right, so this looks like it is actually a better spot than this little white area, right? So this is 268. The best that this was doing was 260. I saw 267. Everything sort of making sense so far? Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of like a wiggle game. Mm-hmm. 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 We'll get into these in a brief moment. Mm-hmm. So once we find those 2 sweet spots, and so that's really the hardest part is finding a good distance to work with, because running oil lines essentially across, right, it costs money to stand up and set up. So like the hardest part is figuring out where you want these extractor nodes to set up, and then you set and do like your little bit of wiggling to get the most efficient for your numbers, and then And then I'll just click submit, so that way that's all up to date. Now the next thing I need to do is say, okay, I need to be able to get stuff off of the planet. So what I like to do is, I more or less like to stare at this and then do like this actual like command center itself. It doesn't really mean anything to me at this point in time. So you don't have to really worry about this location. This is just sort of whenever you want to view this planet, by default it will like zoom into this location, but it doesn't actually mean much. So now we say, okay, cool. We have the means to mine items, and now we're going to need to like process it a little bit and then get it off the planet. The first thing I like to do is find the middle ground between, these two spots approximately, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. This is how I will get stuff off the planet. And you can look at it as well, and if I'll click it real quick, this has a 10,000 unit storage. A storage unit has a 12,000 unit storage, right? So there isn't much of a difference, okay? So I don't use, unless I need to, I don't always use a storage. It depends on if if I have the stuff available. For example, let me just click this real quick. Zoom this up. All right, so this is going to make 40, 45. We'll say 70. We'll go down to like 75. Oh, perfect. Okay, it tells us that. What is it gonna? Oh, it doesn't do it there. Okay. So we won't need to, because of the fact that it's like really a fairly big spot, we don't need to worry about having a storage facility at this point in time. The thing is, and this is what people forget, is that when you mine things, it needs to go into some sort of storage first, and then after that you can put it into other building things. That's a very important concept to know, because people don't do that, and they will link these planets together or link these facilities together, and this will only accept 3,000 units every 30 minutes, which will waste a lot of these resources. So let's just delete that. So the idea is you'll run a pipe into there, and then what happens is it'll just keep dumping into here and then just pulling out what is needed to complete the job. And that way, this is always being efficient and running, like doing everything. And then all of your little modules here that you're going to build, they all are being efficient as well. So that's what you always want these extractor nodes to go to some sort of storage facility. Now the next thing that we're going to look into is we're going to need rocket fuel. So so this is where I start to look at stuff. If you notice, like I was saying, the distance covered costs more and more power grid and CPU, right? As I'm moving it around. So my logic would say, what happens if instead of me running this line to here, what would it be like if I put the like industry facilities like this, right? And then what happens, then I would only be able to run this line to here. It saves me a lot of, distance, right? That's less power grid I'm using. Does that make sense? So like, so what I'll do is this one here, it costs 208.55, okay? Or I could do, as an example, this would go, boop, and I like, whoops, link all these together. All of these will end up needing to be linked together anyways, so there is, it's essentially like making an efficient building line. And then what you would be able to do is just say, hey, this, send it to here, and it will automatically go through each of these structures and not interrupt anything. It's sort of like it just pipes the data, pipes it all through. I'm just going to reset, remove these real quick, so that way I can show you. So because of that saving you CPU and power grid, in these samples, I will say, hey, I'm going to only build P2, so I would need an advanced industry. I like to do this. I'll do one on this side, one on this side, and one on this side, as close as I can to the structure. So that's not close enough. I don't like it. You need it to be just there. That's as close as it can get. Okay. And then I'm going to say, all right, these will need, we're going to make rocket fuel. And then, so this is going to need, let me just put that link in real quick. Did it not do it? I'm explaining it as if we don't know anything, because that's always a good thing to have. So here we're going to say, hey, this is going to make rocket fuel, and it's going to just put it into our little rocket pad, so that way we can launch it. This, it says it needs 40 units every hour, right? So this will run hourly, but it needs 40 units for it to turn on of each of these. So that means that with both of these, you need 80 units an hour, or 40 units every 30 minutes. So far making sense, I believe, correct? Yeah, so I made this, so like in the process of like setting up the, gosh darn it, don't click, no. Click, there we go, okay. So here, because of this requiring 40 units an hour, if I build 2 of them, it means I need 40 units every 30 minutes, right? Because I doubled the stuff, but I need like 80 units an hour, which also is 40 units every 30 minutes. I'm going to click rocket fuel, and I'll also, for this one, I create a route. It would dump rocket fuel into this centralized structure. Then we would say, all right, well, we're going to need some basic industry. Let's do one to show you what's up. So this planet is going to be making the plasmoids. Okay, so I would click plasmoids, and this will create 20 plasmoids every 30 minutes, which isn't too bad, right? So, but the issue is we need double that, because we need 40 plasmoids every 30 minutes. So we'll put in another one. Boop, and then mathematically that is 100% efficient so far. Let me just link these all together real quick. So, all right, so these, we'll say plasmoids. All right, we're going to put the plasmoids into this central area. Do the exact same thing as if we're doing everything else. Whoa. Here, plasmoids, double click, put it into the rocket pod. Oh wait, that one doesn't, sorry. That one's not supposed to be plasmoids. This one is. All right, make sure, all right, cool. So since this requires 40 every 30 minutes, then now we have the ability to make 40 every 30 minutes with these 2 structures. We are going places. We're getting there. All right, Then, now we just have to set up this. What's up? Oh, sorry, I'm doing a demo on PI real quick. Um, so we are at 100% efficiency right now. The next thing we need to do is quickly set up this other side. The other side here, this is requiring electrolytes. So we make sure these other ones. I'm Hey, I'm trying to like actually teach how to do PI. So if you can just you know, either yes, thank you. Hmm. So now that we have these, and you can watch it also RDS if you don't know how to do the like beginner and intermediate PI. So now we have these other structures are making electrolytes. Now, if you look at the Hans IO thing that we saw, it's like, okay, we're making electrolytes from the ionic solutions and the suspended plasma. So this makes, we'll turn these on. This one is going to make the ionic solutions. All right, we'll just say, tell it to start. We'll create a link to here. And because there's no route for this, we have to make one. We're going to route it, and we will route it to this central can. Not terribly long, much longer. Uh, yes, yeah, we probably will. Yeah, yeah, I'd say so. Um, you can also talk to Christian about it too, because I think he's just waiting as well, like flying around. Hmm. So, all right, so now that we have a link here, essentially these ionic solutions get stored into this can or into the launch pad. These are going to take these ionic resources and then put the result into the launch pad. This one is going to take the resulting rocket fuel and put it into the launch pad. Then the only thing you need to do, hold on, well, let me just link this other one together real quick. Mm-hmm. There we go. I always forget the button. All right, so here it says not routed. We will route it to that. That works. This output confirms it's routed to the can, and this is like that. All right. So you see these are blinking red. It's because they do not have a route that goes to this input resource. But everything is coming to here. Everything comes to the launch pad. So all you got to do is take a look at these storage. Is it storage? Stats? Routes. Yeah. Yes. So like there's ways to do it in which you can like utilize a silo as well. It depends on what you're doing and how you're running your efficiencies. I will only sometimes use a silo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hmm. So, all right. So you see all these the red. It means that they're missing the inputs. Well, luckily, if you click on the structure, right, you already routed everything, and it says that, hey, everything is coming to this rocket pad. So you see it says incoming, right? Incoming electrolytes, incoming ionic solutions, da 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 da, all the way to the incoming rocket fuel. What you can do now is you can double click, create a route, and then go find the suspended plasma. So every 30 minutes, this is going to take 3,000 units of plasma. Do it again. Suspended plasma, incoming, create a route to this one. Now they're like becoming yellow, so it means that they have their input criteria is fulfilled. Let's do the exact same thing for ionic solutions. One, and incoming, create a route, two. There we go. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for the electrolytes. We're going to click one electrolyte route. We're going to say create a route and create a route to this one. Whoops, misclicked. Incoming, create a route to here. And then, so we did the electrolytes, so you see it outgoing to the advanced production. Then we got to do it for the plasmoids. One, and create a route to here. Two. No, making rocket fuel. So now you look at this, you're going to say, oh, cool, what did we just do? Well, and I keep liking to do these recaps to make sure, like, you know, everybody follows along. This deposits into the rocket pad. Rocket pad pulls everything into this T1 production thing as it needs it, right? And then it'll put the output back in the rocket pad. Then the rocket pad will draw out the next set for rocket fuel, and then it would put the resulting rocket fuel in the rocket pad. And then from there, the rocket can launch all the fuel into space, and you pick it up and leave. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's why that's why I'm showing it on Discord too as a video, and recording it as well. So you're going to look at this and say, okay, well, we still have a lot of CPU or like power load available. And now this is where like now the nerdy like all this nerdy shit comes into play. So here, this requires 3,000 every 30 minutes or 6,000 an hour, right? And that means it needs, if it's 6,000 an hour, you multiply that by 4, it's 24,000 units for 4 hours, which is the same draw time as your extractor node. So this will consume 24,000 units every 4-hour cycle. If you have two of these, that means it consumes 48,000 units every cycle. And you're going to say, oh, that's kind of cool. Where the heck does that mean? Well, that means if you look at this graph, and I'm hoping I'm not tweaking you too much, but what you need to do is that since this is in 4-hour increments, it means that as long as we're over 48,000 units or 48,000, what it'll do is it will not, where is it? Okay, so the sweet spot is right here, right there. Okay, we'll go down one more. So that means after 3 days, it is, that's the spot where like it's consuming or printing out or using less than it is consuming. So you'd go for it. Go for it. Uh, so this here, This here is set for like this is, since we started the extractor and slid the bar all the way to the right, it set it up as a 14-day pull. And so each of these lines is a 4-hour increment. So at the end of 14 days, it's telling you, hey, by like day 13, hour 20, it's only making. Mm-hmm. No, you're good. You're good. So now you're going to say, okay, cool. Well, we're still able, like, we're 3 days in and still consuming or bringing in more suspended plasma than we are consuming, right? Like, so that means that you're 100% efficient until that point in time. Now this is where I'd be like, okay, well, this makes sense. So why don't we build another basic extractor, right? Because that means it would go from 2 nodes of 48,000 that you need to maintain, like a sweet number here. You would just up it a little bit more to, I think, 48 plus another 24. That's 52, I think. No, sorry. 48 and 24 is 60, 70, 72. Okay. So here, that means if we added another extractor or another of these little industry things, what we can do, that means for the first 2 days or so, it's making more than it is consuming, and then it will start to like taper off. And so depending on how you want to do it, it makes the most sense for you to say, okay, well, I have all of this power grid available. How about we make use of it? And so what I'll do is we will delete this line. Whoops, start. That's not what I wanted to do. Delete this line. There we go. We'll just add another industry on here. 1 and 2. Whoops. And it's not butted right up to it, so you delete it and do it again. It's a basic. And then because of this making that per hour, right, it means you can now afford another advanced industry. So we'll just throw one in there at that point. We still have a little bit more left over, but that's perfectly fine. We don't need to worry. We still have to make the links. So we would need to make a link here. We make a link here. Run this link to here. And perfect. We're not right up at the end, but we're darn near close. So overall, I count that as a win. Then we'll just quickly route this stuff again, so that way it's all back to looking yellow. This one is going to be making electrolytes. This one is going to make rocket fuel. This one makes plasmoids. This one, come on. This, okay. We're good. Route this to here. Okay. And we go to our routes. We'll just quickly incoming, we'll create a route to here. We got to create the plasmoid route because we made an additional advanced industry. And we need to do ionic solutions, which I believe goes down to there. And the bottom one, suspended plasma incoming, create a route to here. Create a route. Now I will click submit. All right, cost me 2.1 mil. So now I have, after looking at this, I need to maintain at least 75K. Like once it starts dipping below 75K, it'll, chew up everything above it. Like essentially it becomes a reserve. So once it starts dipping below that, we end up chewing those reserves up for like another day or so, day or two, and then it like then it'll be done, and then you have to like stop and start again. But mhm. Yep. So like with the way it's set up right now, and because of the way this graph works, because whether you have a small draw or a big draw, if you want to be doing it every day, you can totally do that, but it really, really consumes a lot of time. Because right now, your average per hour is really low in comparison to doing it very micromanagey. So like I would say every, 3 or 4 days is probably when you just want to like, all you'd want to do is come to this industry thing, click on here, and then you would just say stop extraction and then start extraction, and it'll immediately just start up at the top again, and then every like 3 or 4 days, boop, 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 and then it just keeps piling everything up. And if you forget about it, that's the cool thing is that like say you log off or you can't be on for a day or few. The reason why I also like it is because even if you forget about it, it's still running, and so it's still making stuff. It's just not efficient. After like day 4 or 5, it becomes not efficient anymore because these extractors or the industry is going to be like waiting for enough materials for it to turn on. But around like the way this is set up right now, you're good for about 4 or 5 days, and then all you got to do is start and stop, and then take stuff off of the planet. But that right there will make you what is it? 5, 10, 15. So 15 rocket fuel an hour, every hour for the next 5 days. So that right there, this setup guarantees you 1,800 rocket fuel in the next 5 days, and you don't have to worry about anything. And like you could either sell it or use it to build something that you need. And then, like I said, this is my basic T2 or P2, I guess you would call it, like production line. And it uses up just about all of the CPU and power grid that you want. The one thing what I will say is, and this is something that I didn't discuss, is that because of there still being some CPU and power grid left, what I will do is I'll go here and say, all right, well, this is making me a lot, right? This is a very hefty amount. You see like the 150 and the 75. But if I look at this one, it's not the 150 and 75, it's like the 50 and 100. So what I'll do is, that just means that this reactor needs to work more to produce the same amount as this other one up there. So I'll just burn the rest of my CPU and power grid. There we go. I can make an additional 2. And I can attempt to, now that I know what my workflow is, I just add these additionals here. Let's see, this goes up to 243. This one goes up to 250 something. Over here is 264. All right, there's that one. And 267. Yeah, so I do something like that. And then I would say start. Oh, I didn't like that. Let's stop. And then let's see. I think it was. Okay, this one I just want to move just a smidge. There we go. Start. And it says it's not routed. Create a route. Ah, interesting. Okay, so here, route is not created. it is adding additional traffic. Did you see that line? Let me see. Do I have to do it again? So here, you see those two lines are overflowing, like they just can't process it. So I can click on this link, and I can go to links. Is it link info? Routes, links, no. Products, no. Oh, this is the factory, my bad. There we go. So here it says this route is 100% consumed. So now I can upgrade this link a little bit. Upgrade the link. And I can upgrade this link. Okay. So if I upgrade them, now let's see what happens. Boom. Look at that. Perfect. Oh, let me wait 3 seconds. Jesus, something. All right, so yeah, so that was the thing that you need to like figure out is like, you might need to upgrade a link here and there, and we have just enough to be able to do it now, which is fantastic. So here, let me just take this, let me just see if I can get rid of these routes. Oh yeah, yep, it's all set there. Submit. I'll just click cancel real quick, see what's going on. Well, so so the storage facility, I'm essentially, what I'm doing is I'm cheating the system and essentially using my launch pad as a storage facility because of the fact that for P2, we're making a lot of units, but this storage facility is able to handle the workflow, this workflow. When you start dealing with like other things start getting heavier or gets kind of like goofy, and you might want to have a storage unit in here just as like help with the overflow. So you always want to like have it go to some sort of storage. It just so happens that like for this use case, I like to use the launch pad itself as the storage, but you don't need to. You can use you could use the storage facility. It just costs power grid and CPU. So it's like, do you really want to? It's like that's where it's like it gets kind of like interesting. Let's see, I'll show that there, and I'll put this one back over here. Again, okay. Start that, and these are going to be upgraded again. Let me just quickly upgrade this. Okay, and we need to upgrade this one. And I'm trying to like save this real quick. Create the route to here. Save. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now it's back up and running correctly. So yeah, because of me doing this now, it pulled all these numbers up because I added extra extractors, and now both of these extractors sort of are about equal in terms of their throughput, which means everything here is going to be running about equal. And now, boom, you got rocket fuel, free rocket fuel, and your PI is complete for that planet. So you can just, anytime you need to like upgrade everything, all you just go is come back in here, click install, stop, start, and then boom, you continue on your day. But other than that, once you have that fundamental setup, then you're set. You're able to like, you don't even need to worry about it ever again unless you need to move to a new, like make a new planet and decommission this, or maybe you decide you want like maybe you realize that one of these things doesn't quite work out, or you need to, maybe you want to like get a different resource. So like maybe instead of you doing the suspended plasma, maybe you decide you want to do base metals instead. So you would collect with base metals here, and then do whatever you need to do with it. But yeah. But that's your fundament. That's like the efficient P2 production line, which is pretty cool. And then, since that's already taken care of, the other thing which I thought was neat, because this is something I thought you might have some use of, is if I were to look at, give me a second, I got dock up. So you can only do that when you're in space, right? You can't do it from within a structure, which is why I just was undocked the entire time. So one of the other things you can do is, let's see, Corp Hanger, Agora, Corpor, PI, maybe. I'm just checking real quick. Is there a PI on there? No. All right, so in the Agora stuff, you have Corporation PI. So this is like a whole bunch of PI that is for you guys to buy if you need it or want it, right? So if you look back at the Hans.io thing, right? That website, you can sort of like you could also, instead of mining the resources, you can create a what I would previously said is like a forge world, which is essentially for making P3 and P4 products. And so instead of you using that planet to mine basic resources, you have a planet that would literally import a resource and then output something that presumably costs, like gives you more money than like the items that like fed into it, right? For example, we could just do like a broadcast node. Ideally, a broadcast node would cost more than the sum of the material that goes into it. So as a part of that flow, since the corp buys PI, the idea behind it is that if you want to, you could buy all of the, we could say, chiral structures or all of the water from the corp, and then you don't need to produce it anymore. So you can just immediately like put that into a forge world with whatever else that you need, and then make your more advanced items that way. So that is an availability. And the idea is like it would be good to show you how to make a forge world. I actually have a sample one. Give me a second. I'll just switch my screen to one of my other characters real quick. Click this. How do I turn it real quick? Changing window. Go to Hemo. All right. All right. So for Hemo, for example, industry PI. All right. Yeah, I need to return all these on. So this is like one of a forge world that I have. So the idea of a forge world, right, is that you take, since you're already going to import resources, you could buy them from people or do whatever you need to do. But so this planet, for example, you can have multiple, since you can have, let's not show that stuff. There we go. So you can have multiple launch pads. And so what I do is like, hey, this launch pad will get all of, it looks like, reactive metals and whatever else, and this little buildup here is making construction blocks, and then this launch pad is slowly making condensants. So like it's consuming little bits of this and that, and then making condensants. And then this one over here is another launch pad, and this one is just making like fertilizer, it looks like. Um, so you can do stuff like this, is like make like a little honeycomb type of thing. And then from this point, you just sort of like, make your own little design. Because like you don't need to worry about anything about the planet because you're not utilizing it all at all, and you just max it out to fit as many resource nodes on it as possible, or not resource, like building facilities as possible, and then you just keep feeding it resources by importing and exporting to the planet, and it'll just process it all, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, it allows you to, like, because you're gonna need it eventually. You would eventually have one of these. Um, so like say you can make 6 planets, you'll probably have one of these that is like, a forge world essentially. And so you'd be making your own stuff and everything here and there. But with the way we do like our corp buybacks and stuff, it's like, everybody sells off their excess, what they don't need. And if you're sort of like running short on stuff, like, hey, maybe your shit turned off for like a couple extra days because, whatever, you know since you're already going to import shit to the planet anyways, all you do is just like, buy it from the corp, and then now you have those materials, and then just, it keeps the machine alive, like keeps you doing your thing. um, but like, this is essential for like making the end games, like not end game PI, but the highest level PI stuff. You'll end up like importing, broadcast, or you'll import like, whatever, 3 items, and just keep grinding them out, and just keep doing that. Hmm. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it especially in high sec, but like crazy how like there's such a drastic amount of resources available out here, and with the low tax rates on top of that, you can make money hand over foot. Like, I mean, RDS he wasn't lying when he said you can make like 500 mil a month, per, I think, almost per character. I'd say if you're like really good at it, if you max PI out on all of the characters on your account or whatever, you can probably pull like up about a bill a month, and that's just on PI. That you like, once a week you just sort of like spend 30 minutes, refreshing everything. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So like, the more micro you want to get into stuff, the more opportunity you have for profits. Um, and that could be something like, maybe you're into that. Like, for example, if you're a miner, maybe if you're a miner and you're online regularly, maybe you want to do like those shorter polls because you're already mining, so you might want to just, tweak things. But I like to keep as hands off as possible and just be like, well, once every 5 days is more than enough for me. And I don't want to, you don't need to be like super into it, and you're still getting your materials. But yeah, like, you want to get super into the weeds, you could definitely make money, but you're literally like almost dedicating a lot of your time just to like moving around resources from planet to planet, or moving it from planet to structure, or refreshing shit, and it just becomes tedious. hmm But yeah, like hey, once this is set up, like you don't have to touch it. Like that rocket fuel stuff, like I won't touch that for the next 6 months. So it's as easy as click click done, and then maybe once every while, I extract it, because like right, like if you're in space, you don't need to scoop it or whatever. Like once it's in space, it sits in that gantry. So like what I'll do is I'll just like move it to like up until like that gantry is almost full, and then I'll go out and grab it. So like it's not even one of those things where I need to like be there weekly or in system regularly. I just have to just move it to the space, the gantry or whatever, and then it's good, the poco, and then it's good to go. And then that way it's not on the planet, so these structures can keep going. hmm Oh yeah, it's a waste. It's like, yeah, you don't want to. Don't I'm telling, yeah, just don't do that. Um, the only Yeah, the only thing I would say is like the annoying part is really these forge worlds, right? Like it might be one of those things where like this will chew through a lot of resources real quick, like this little honeycomb thing. And so depending, like it might be one of those things for like a week or two I might have this set up to make whatever, but then I actually have to sit down and be like, all right, well I'm going to make this next thing for like another week or two. And so I like I just have to like rename which production item I'm making, and then just relink it all, but otherwise it isn't bad. It just it just gets a little weird. So like every couple of weeks I might have to like swap these out as like I run out of resources for that thing I'm trying to make. I mean that just means like I could probably just make less of it, and then I just normalize it over time. But yeah, that's a different conversation. But yeah, I mean, like I don't know. That's but yeah, once you know that fundamental for that PI building, and that you get the P2, like the P2 is pretty much like a lot of the T2 items. That's what that requires. And then the 3 and the 4 is sort of gets into more anal, like more into the weeds of like structure components, or components to make capitals and battleships and shit now, or whatever. Like that's what the 3s and 4s is like. Super capitals, titans, structures, structure modules. That's like what the 3s and 4s is generally for. And then the P2 and P3, like mostly P2, that is like the rocket fuel. That's like your T2, you know, ammo, ships, stuff like that. Like they use, like a lot of T2 ships use construction blocks and stuff, for example. So yeah, in my mind, I visualize it as like the construction blocks are the frame, and then you put like fucking titanium diborite armor plates onto it, and then that's how I visualize it. But I'll just cut this video, and then unless you guys have any other quick questions. No problem. And Paul, is it I'll publish this video and stuff, but does it this thing sort of make sense? Yep, that straight line approach that I did is going to be probably your most efficient, and that'll probably hold you over for like most of your planets. But cool. All right. I'll just close off the broadcast then.